Breaking right now at 11 o'clock, a deadly house fire in the Hollywood Hills. And tonight we're learning about the man with a very famous last name who lived and died there. Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand live in the Hollywood Hills with the breaking new details tonight. Jory.
Mark, firefighters had a difficult time accessing this home because it's set so far back off the road, and it's at the top of a very steep hill with a very thin stairwell leading up there. Once they did access the home, they made the tragic discovery inside, and it turns out the man who lived there might have been a billionaire, but found the home's elderly occupant dead inside. Neighbors identifying him as Will Rothschild of the Rothschild family.
We're getting a new roof put on tomorrow, and so I told my wife email him to make sure it's okay that we use part of his driveway. And he never responded, and I said, well, that's so unlike him.
Rothschild is described by neighbors as an eccentric millionaire or even billionaire with multiple properties and dozens of some of the most expensive cars on earth. But on a street lined with multi-million-dollar homes and mansions occupied by celebrities and the powerful, Rothschild was said to have lived as a bit of a recluse in a small, old, rickety home in conditions described as that of a hoarder, something the fire department seemed to tactfully confirm tonight.
By the time I got to the top of the stairs, the windows blew out, and that whole entire section of the structure was engulfed.
The location of the home made it challenging for fire crews to access.
A lot of the difficulties stemmed from where the home is positioned on the hillside. It is set back quite a way from the street, up a pretty steep set of stairs behind a couple other homes. So access for the firefighters when they first arrived on scene was very difficult to get a hose line in place.
Once they knocked down the blaze, firefighters found an elderly man dead inside. It's unclear if the homeowner, who neighbors say lived alone, died as a result of the fire or beforehand. Neighbors had not seen the 80-year-old resident in a few days and appeared to be in declining health.
It really is sad. He's a good man. He's a great neighbor. You didn't really see a lot of him lately because he's so elderly, and I was a little concerned.
86-year-old William de Rothschild found dead inside of his home. Brian Lindsay has lived in Lookout Mountain for roughly 25 years.
It's a colorful place with a lot of colorful people, and Will was sort of classic Laurel Canyon, wonderful guy.
Brian and others say William was known in Laurel Canyon and known in Los Angeles for a specific passion.
His thing was cars. He was an expert on vintage race cars, and he would show me some of his vintage race cars, and he knew so much about them. He had a vintage race car that had belonged to Frank Sinatra, and another one that had belonged to Michael Jordan.
The fire halted before it could spread to neighboring homes, but tonight it is not the loss of one home echoing through this canyon, it is the loss of a memorable man.
The mayor's crisis response team is here for anyone who wants to talk, and arson investigators are on scene as well. What happened, Colleen, we still don't know, but one member of the LAFD tells me tonight that William was found at the front door.
In modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words: Dear Lord Rothschild.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was, after all, in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. And those really are the background reasons.
So Walter received the Balfour Declaration, and I have a copy here. And I wonder if I could possibly ask you to read it for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm going to put on my spectacles to make sure I read it accurately. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of the Jewish people. If you think it took 3,000 years to get to this, and then you say, how did this miracle happen? It's the most incredible piece of opportunism. I mean, if you think you had an impoverished would-be scientist, Chaim Weizmann, who somehow gets to England, meets a few people, including members of my family, seduces them. He has such great charm and conviction. He gets to Balfour, and he unbelievably persuades Balfour and Lloyd George, the Prime Minister, and most of the ministers, that this idea of the national home for Jews should be allowed to take place. I mean, it's so unlikely. And then he starts to fight a difficult battle with the British cabinet, and this letter goes through 5 drafts, as you know. And in the end, it comes out as a rather compromising letter. I mean, the essential point is there for the Jewish community to fasten on to. You have the first bit, which promises a national home rather than the national home, and then you have the bit that nothing that's to be done should in any way harm the Arab community. But you come back to the big point, which is that this is perhaps the greatest event in Jewish life for thousands of years. And it's a miracle.